Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today we're talking with a children's author that I'm so excited about. Her name is LeUyen Pham. Let's bring her on in. Hi, LeUyen.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Good morning.
So one of the things that I love about your book, and you can see it right behind me, it's Outside, Inside, and we can bring this up. Now, this is a very timely book because we all know that last year we went through some changes with COVID, but can you give us more about your book and what inspired you to write this as a children's book?
Wow. Well, when I first started to come up with the idea for this book, it was not intended to be a book. It was very early in the days of lockdown. I want to say within 4 weeks of lockdown, I was making all these observations of what was happening in the world, in our neighborhood, like locally to globally. My kids were at home. All of a sudden, my husband was at home. They didn't have PE anymore. They weren't exercising, and we would make sure to go out in our neighborhoods and take walks. And on these walks, first we had to wear the masks, which was such a strange thing for my son to have to put on. They both hated it. But we started to notice all these things that were different with the neighborhood. We started to see signs going up in windows that little kids were writing, saying, "We're all in this together," and hearts and rainbows and these ways of connecting with people who lived in the house. And then there were things like teddy bear hunts. I don't know if you guys had that where you live, but neighbors would put teddy bears in the windows, and they would go, and children in the neighborhood, as they're taking their walks, would hunt for the teddy bears in all those windows. There were just all these really lovely ways to connect with one another that hadn't existed before. And it wasn't just happening in my neighborhood, it was happening around the world. It was happening, in New York, it was happening in Europe, and you would see signs, you would see teddy bears, you would see hearts. It was as if we were all trying to find a way to connect with one another once we were told that we had to stay away from one another. And I was just so moved by everything that I was observing. And I knew that we were going to forget these early moments of what it was really like, these moments of anxiety and fear, and at the same time of this strange sense of hope and community. And so I started to write them down. I started to make these little drawings. And I had not intended it to be a book. It just became that. I've written and illustrated over 100 books, and it's the way my brain processes things, how it makes information. And so this book sort of naturally started to come out from this refrain of outside this was happening, inside this was happening. And so this is it. It's a collection of all those early moments in lockdown when we were really almost at our best as a community. It's just a collection of our kind acts is what it is.
Yeah. And I love it. I want to bring it up and show some images from your book. But one of the things that I thought about while you were talking, and also while we were looking at the book myself, and we'll bring up some of these images now so we can see those. So I really liked that you talk about this, and even with the teddy bear thing you were just talking about, where we did look at our neighbors. And I almost think that sometimes I think that we connected with our neighbors more than ever before, because we did something, because Easter was shortly after lockdown started, and people decorated Easter eggs and put them up in their window. And we did this little scavenger hunt where we just walked up and down our street and looked for different Easter eggs. And I thought, would we have done these things if we weren't all trying to be creative to find a way to connect without physically connecting? And so I really loved what you did here and what you were talking about. And especially, I'm a mother myself. I have young children. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And I think for the kids, it was even harder than it was for us as adults. I loved it. And we can see here the different images that you have here in the book. And you've mentioned, so you've written and illustrated a lot of children's books. This one, I think for those in publishing, we know that usually books take a while to come out. And so I was really impressed that you were able to get this book out within a year of the lockdown starting, because that's pretty quick when it comes to the publishing world.
Yeah, the standard amount of time it normally takes a picture book to come out is about a year from start to finish. From you get the time to illustrate the book, to write the book. There's a lot of copy editing that needs to go on. This was just a very different experience. I'm a very fast illustrator. I mean, you'd have to have done 100 books at this point, but I really had to rein in what I could do during this time to be able to do this book as quickly as I could. There were a few different reasons why we wanted to do it as fast as we could. One was, well, because books take so long to publish, it needed to be done by a certain date in summer for it to be released at this time. And so it was sort of rushed on that way. But another, and for me the most pressing, was that I needed to make this book while it was happening. I needed to make it while it still felt fresh, while I could still channel those early emotions, those feelings, because they were going to go away. And I know it's been a year now, and we're tired, we're exhausted, we want all this to be over. And I think part of the reason why this book has met with the level of success that it has, why people are responding to it in the way that they are, is exactly that reason, that they are remembering those early days and those feelings, those fresh feelings of, why are we doing this, when we didn't question whether or not it was right or wrong, or whether or not it was politically correct. We did it because we knew this is the safe thing to do. And we all came together to do the right thing all at the same time. And I think that's part of the reason why the book had to be done as quickly as that, was to remember that. Also, to be honest, it was not a space I could occupy for very long making this book. I spent a lot of time going online, going onto newspaper articles, chatting with friends, making a collective experience. And it was hard to go through some of these experiences. It was hard to be ever present at these moments. And I just knew that for my own well-being, I couldn't stay in that space for very long. So for me, it was almost a relief to be able to finish it quickly and set it aside. And now when I look at it, it was such a blur of a time that I worked on it, that I can almost see it as a reader rather than as the creator, that I can see it for sort of what it was or what it is. And it still affects me. It still makes me cry, because I know where I was at the moments that I did certain images, and the feelings that it elicited at that time for me.
Yeah, I agree. That was a hard time, and I think with vaccines and everything now out, and people starting to feel a new sense of hope, it's a really interesting time, and a really hopeful time. But it is important for us to remember that these are the things that we've gone through. And one of the things that I've been thinking about during this time is babies that were born in 2020, all they've known is people in public wearing masks. And how interesting will it be for them when it changes? I mean, think of the toddlers. That's all they know. And, that it's really interesting. And one thing that I thought, if this would have been 2 years ago and somebody walked into a store or a bank with a mask on, we would think they're robbing the place. But now it happens all the time. So sometimes we got to find the humor in things too.
Our dialogue has changed so much, hasn't it? The things that we've now accepted as the norm. And I think I remember when we first tried to put a mask on my son, how much he fought it. He just did not like the idea of covering his face. And now he's like the worst at of all of us. Did you bring your mask? Who's got your mask on? You've got your mask in here. And it's just so become the norm. And it's, in a strange way, I look at it all and I think, hey, we're so resilient as humans, aren't we? Like, it's amazing what we're able to deal with. I found that I've been touring with this book for a while, and kids are a lot better at accepting this than adults are. And it's funny. I can see on the Zoom camera as I'm reading the book, adults tearing up at certain moments, and I know that something has affected them. But the kids are they're waving madly into the camera when they recognize themselves at some point in the story. And there's something in that they can find themselves in this particular book. It's not a normal children's book. And I mean, I make books all the time. I know what a normal children's book is. It's a collective consciousness. It's a gathering of everything that everybody was experiencing, I hope. And I'm seeing that people can find themselves in this book, and it's great. I didn't anticipate that the book would have that kind of effect on people.
Yeah, I agree. And the illustrations are beautiful too. So I love it. Well, thank you so much, LeUyen. It's been great having you here. And I encourage everybody to check out Outside Inside, and it's available everywhere books are sold, right?
Yes, I think so. Local bookstores. Go to your independent stores if you can, please, too. Support the small store.
Awesome. And people can find you online as well and on social media, and we will have those credits coming right up. So thank you again for being here with us, LeUyen.
Oh, thank you so much for having me in the morning with you, and it was great to talk with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet. And thank you all for joining us on the book break. We'll see you next time.